Hi guys, it's Angie with Fun Endeavors Tie-Dye Lab. Today let's make an ice-dyed experimental fanfold shirt. The shirt was prepped like normal and I have it turned inside out. So the day that I tied this shirt, I'd already tied several shirts, and quite frankly, I didn't quite know what to do with this one. So I thought, well, let's just start folding and see what happens. So I began by folding one corner of the hem of the shirt up to the opposite shoulder of the shirt. Then I turned the shirt over and folded one shoulder of the shirt over to the other shoulder. Then I turned the shirt over and folded the hem portion that was hanging down up to the shoulder of the shirt. Like I said, I'm just randomly folding the shirt. From here, the seam that you see is kind of forming a perfect line in the shirt, and I'm going to fan fold that line. Once I have the shirt fan folded, I'm going to use some kite string to hold all the folds in place. I set this shirt aside and got busy dyeing other shirts, so when I came back to it, it was completely dry. For this shirt, I've chosen a palette of blues and grays. I'm going to ice dye the shirt, so I need to make myself some sort of an ice barrier to keep the ice on top of the shirt. I'm using silicone cake molds, which I'm going to wrap around the shirt, and then use some wooden clothespins, which I'm attaching to my metal rack, so that it keeps the cake molds up close to the shirt. I have a link down below in the description for this video for where I purchased the cake molds. I've chosen 8 different colors for this design. So before I start applying the dye, I'm going to use a washable marker and divide my shirt into 8 sections. So the colors that I'm going to use on this shirt are Brilliant Blue from Dharma, Brushed Steel from Dharma, Alpine Blue from Dharma, Midnight Blue from Dharma, Silver Lining from Dharma, Sapphire Blue from Dharma, Neutral Gray from Pro Chemical and Dye, and Royal Blue from Dharma. If you missed any of those, I have them listed down below in the description. Now I'm going to add an additional sprinkle of dry soda ash over the top of the dye and add on some ice. I set the shirt aside and allowed the ice to melt. After the first layer of ice melted, I came back and added a second layer of ice to try to dissolve some of the dye that was still left sitting on top, and to make sure I had plenty of liquid to force all that dye completely through the shirt, because it is a pretty thick fold. After the second layer of ice melted, most of the dye had dissolved on the shirt, but there was quite a bit left at one end of the shirt, so I added a small amount of ice to that area and continued to let it process. I allowed the shirt to process for at least 24 hours after all of the ice had melted. So this is what the shirt looked like right before I began rinsing, and you can see that the dye's gone through really well to the back side. So to rinse the shirt, I started rinsing in cold water to rinse out any of the soda ash that was remaining in the shirt. Then I untied the shirt and warmed the water up to hot to rinse out any of the excess dye that didn't bond with the fabric. I don't know about anybody else, but to me, blues seem to be one of the hardest colors to rinse out of a shirt. So instead of just continuing to rinse in hot water, I went ahead and just soaked the shirt. I ran some really hot water in my sink, added just a little bit of Blue Dawn dish detergent into the water, and allowed the shirt to soak. When the water cooled off, I changed it out, and I continued this process until the water was almost clear. Then I put the shirt, along with a little bit of Dharma's textile detergent, into my washing machine and washed it using a hot water cycle. And after I finished washing and drying the shirt, this is what it looks like. Okay, so what do you guys think? So I really like this one. It is not exactly what I thought it would turn out looking like. It looks very much like an X shirt, and obviously that was not planned or intended, but it's not bad. I really didn't know what to expect, honestly. I was just kind of folding and going with it, and I thought, well, whatever happens, happens. But it's not an X shirt in the fact that if you look, the dye pattern is totally different. It's a cool way to make a non-symmetrical dye pattern X shirt, because if you notice, the dye pattern on one half of the shirt is very different than the dye pattern on the other half of the shirt. I think that's a cool effect though. I like that. I like that it's unexpected. You're kind of wondering what happened when you look at it, because the dye isn't the same on the top half as it is on the bottom half of the shirt. I also like the colors that I used. I think blues and grays work really well together. And I think for the most part, a lot of gray dye has really cool color splits. I also got really good color saturation all the way through the shirt. This fold was really thick, But because I had set the shirt aside and allowed it to dry out completely, that helps make it a little easier to saturate and get the dye all the way through the center of the shirt. If you want a little bit more information about dyeing dry shirts, I have a blog post out on my website, and there's a link to my website down below in the description. But I talk a little bit more in depth about why I dye some really thick folds when they're completely dry. So for a randomly tied shirt, I think this one ended up looking pretty cool. And if you guys have enjoyed watching the video and the content of it, I sure would appreciate it if you would like the video and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you have a great day.